Oh, Tiny Workout Ram, is there anything you can't make better? Indeedy-roo, indeed. Oh, hi there everyone, it's me, Aaron. Welcome to another Thorgi's Arcade review. You know, after the last game that we reviewed, I decided I needed kind of a break from anything serious or dark, so I decided to go all the way back to the very beginning of this year and check out Animal Crossing New Horizon. Now, you see, this is actually my very first Animal Crossing game, so there was a lot that I need to be introduced to it. Oh, crap. It's him. No, thank you. No, we're all good over here. I'm not interested in samurai bloodshed today. I just kind of want to chill with my little island of imaginary animals. No. Ah, crap. He's not leaving. What's he even doing outside? He's not even wearing a mask. Touché. Okay, listen man, I'm just gonna be real with you. After the last game we played, I am not in the mood for anything realistic or serious or stealth-based right now. So unless you can show me something really mind-blowing, I'm sorry, but we're not doing it today, okay? Oh my god, that is really pretty. Well, don't need you anymore. Hey everybody, let's take a look at Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is the latest game from Sucker Punch, the makers of Sly Cooper and Infamous, and while gameplay-wise, you can see some DNA of their previous exploits in here, story-wise, this is 100% different from any of them. It's the story of the Mongol invasion of the island of Tsushima, an actual event important to the history of Japan, and you play as Jin Sakai, a samurai from a long line of noble warriors, and has been trained since he was a boy to live up to the samurai code of honor instilled in him by his uncle. And all that training goes right out the window the day the Mongols invade and tear through every samurai on the island in the span of a few hours. Jin is left for dead, but he's rescued by a thief named Yuna. The two of them have opposing philosophies on how to approach this invasion, but they agree to work together to try and bring the people of the island together so they can save her brother and his uncle and free their home from these invaders. And yeah, that's it. Don't get me wrong, that's not all there is to the story. It's actually an amazing tale about Jin's character changing and having to question everything he's known, and I'll get into more of that later, but when I say that's it, I mean it takes about half an hour for that setup to fully be established, and then the game just turns to you and says, okay, have fun. I was not kidding in that opening skit when I said I was not really looking forward to this game. Don't get me wrong, this game looked great. It looked like an incredibly well-made game. But it also looked like it was not going to be my type of game. This game was clearly going to be an open world game, and I'll just level with you guys. I'm typically not a fan of open world games. I find them to be kind of repetitive, but also they tend to take forever to actually start. People kept comparing this to Red Dead Redemption 2, and I think Red Dead 2 is great. I think it's an amazing game after 10 hours. And I was not in the mood to wait 10 hours for this game to finally get going. Guess what? Neither was this game. This game starts up, you get introduced to Jin, you get introduced to Yuna, you get introduced to the villain, you get the premise, you understand you have to go and find allies, you gotta save your uncle, you gotta beat the bad guy, boom, opening title card, just go. The map is now open for you and you get to go and explore and have fun. It takes half an hour to get to this. Half an hour. I can't remember the last time some big epic AAA game got me from the start to the peak of gameplay that quickly. But that's the thing about this game. Yes, it has a lot of big important story elements and some great characters, but at its core, it is a video game, and it knows that. And it wants you to play this video game. In fact, it feels like this game does everything in its power to make sure you want to play it. Another reason I'm not a big fan of open world games is because so many of them brag about the size of their world, which is indeed impressive. You create something that big and it is quite a feat. But if your giant massive world doesn't really have anything in it, then I don't care. If I have to ride for 20 minutes to get to anything interesting, then eventually I'm going to get bored no matter how detailed your world is. But Ghost of Tsushima, sure, its map is big, but it's also dense. It is jam-packed with quests, collectibles, random enemy encounters, bandit camps, and yes, I know that bandit camps are some of the most tired, outdated tropes of open world games, but the combat in here is so good and there's so much to find in these camps that they're actually fun. And as soon as you get done raiding that bandit camp, you'll take 2 steps outside and suddenly something new will pop up. I'm gonna let you guys in on some behind the scenes info. When I record, I take notes on the stuff that I want to use in these reviews, and I have never taken more notes on a game than I did for Ghost of Tsushima. There was always something to show off, something to talk about, and there's a couple hours at the start of this game that I didn't record because I knew I was just going to be running around the world to explore, and as I said, I was used to open world games where you would run around the world and mostly just do nothing for half an hour, and then all of a sudden maybe something would pop up, and I knew that when it came to recording footage for this game, that was mostly just going to be a waste of time. And yet, every 5 minutes that I wasn't recording, I was cursing myself out for not recording because I kept seeing stuff that was so good, stuff that I should talk about, stuff that I should bring up in this review. There was that much to show off. I literally sat down one night and said, I don't need to record any of this, I'm just going to walk around and explore. And then half an hour later, I was having a duel against a legendary swordsman in the middle of a ring surrounded by lightning.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
And as I said, this game wants you to play it, so they go out of their way to actually encourage and even help you explore this world. When you defeat a Mongol base, it'll fill up a large chunk of the map for you, showing you where many secret locations are. If there's a collectible somewhere in the area, you can equip a special outfit that will cause your controller to vibrate when you get close to it. And is this a secret outfit that you have to run down 12 side quests to obtain? No, it's literally the first costume in the game. And they just give it to you as soon as the story begins. So if you want to start collecting stuff, they give you the ultimate way to start collecting stuff right at the start of the game. As you run around this world, whenever you get close to a quest or collectible, a golden bird will appear and it'll just lead you right to it. You don't have to stumble around the woods looking for some tiny microscopic thing to start a quest. Your aerial friends will just come swooping in and show you exactly where it is. And anytime this little guy appeared, I would just start running after it like Charlie Bucket after finding the golden ticket. In fact, sometimes I might have even gotten a little too excited. And if you feel yourself getting lost in this big world, just hit the touchpad and the wind will blow towards your next location. And even if you don't have a destination set and you want to find some of these collectibles or secrets out there in the world, you can actually use upgrade points to enhance this wind so it can now guide you towards these secrets even if you're nowhere near them. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but I have to say it again. It is stunning to me how much this game wants you to actually play it, and how it is going to do everything in its power to make sure you get to do that. And that extends to the combat. Throughout this game, you'll unlock a dozen different tools that you can use for combat, or for setting up traps, or different types of arrows, as well as 4 different stances that allow Jin to fight in different ways with different combos, as well as each of these different stances being effective at breaking the guard of different types of enemies. And just describing this to you, I will admit, that sounds overwhelming. It sounds like way too much to keep track of. So many weapons and ways of fighting, sounds like your thumbs are going to be tripping over themselves the whole time. But no, the way the buttons are laid out on your controller is genius. The way they just let you hit one trigger, and now all of your direction face buttons change to your combat weapons, or you hit another trigger, and now they all change to your ranged weapons, and then you hit another button, and now you're changing stances on the fly. It doesn't take long to get used to it. It is almost like this game was perfectly designed for the PlayStation controller, and that combat really is at a peak during the duels. Dear God, did I love these! They're just a one-on-one duel with another fighter, and again, this game is going for realism, so nobody is going to turn into a giant demon or summon out magical spells. It is just you, your opponent, and your blades. And yet, each enemy has their own unique way of fighting that gave these battles so much variety. I could go up against one opponent and take them out no problem. Then I would face another enemy, and they would kick my butt. Not because they were stronger than me, but because they fought differently, and I just had a harder time reading their moves. This combat is brilliant. It feels great, and it looks great. There is so much in this game, just purely on the presentation level, that's incredible. When you walk up to a gang of Mongols, you'll go into a standoff with them where you both have to find the exact right moment to draw your blade, and the tension in those sequences is so high, my eyes dried up from not being able to blink. When you perfectly counter an enemy's attack, they get knocked wide open in a slow motion sequence that just screams, oh, now you're in trouble. Or best of all, when Jin goes into his ghost stance mode, an ability where for a limited time, Jin will instantly kill anyone he attacks in one single swipe of his blade, you just hear this thunder crack, the screen goes dark, and everyone cowers around you. It's like this game turns into a Jason Voorhees simulator for 30 seconds, but it's exactly what it should turn into. It is perfectly conveying that feeling of how deadly a warrior Jin is and how his enemies are terrified of him. It turns him into a legend just through the presentation. I haven't felt this way controlling a character since the first Arkham game came out, and you would hear the random thugs getting freaked out about Batman. It's basically the same thing. After you have played through this game long enough and you've slashed your way through enough of the enemies, the moment you go into Ghost Stance, you know you have proven yourself to be that much of a badass that yes, these villains will start freaking out at the mere sight of you. And you've already noticed it by now, but this whole world looks incredible. Walking through a forest of trees with brilliantly yellow leaves fluttering around you, making your way through a field of bamboo to find a hidden statue, hearing the story of a legendary warrior and seeing paint strokes fill the screen to illustrate this tale, or just standing at the top of a mountain and staring off into the distance feels magical. There's even tons of sets that you'll find that don't even have anything to do with the game. They're not tied to any quests. They're just there to give this world a sense of atmosphere. I remember running into a dueling ring where there were two dead bodies, and I just thought, what the hell happened here? What's the story behind this? You never get the story behind it, but it's great when a world like this can make you invested in just what is essentially set decorations. Traversing this land felt so good, and there was so much to find that I actually didn't even use my horse for giant chunks of this game because I wanted to spend more time exploring. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And again, I hate repeating myself, but there's just so much to find, and almost all of it actually helps you. There is so much stuff in this game to upgrade, and because this game was going for a more realistic tone, I thought, yeah, these upgrades will probably be minuscule, like by the end of the game you'll finally see a difference, but it'll practically be non-existent up until then. Nope, when you start upgrading, you see the improvements immediately. When this game begins, Jin is basically just a sheet of paper who is going to fold under a strong breeze. He is weak, he is beaten down. You can tell the ass kicking that he took on that beach really left an impact on him. But as you start to upgrade, you see yourself instantly getting stronger. Enemies that were bringing you down with one attack a moment ago now don't seem like that big of a deal, and you actually have a fighting chance after just a few upgrades. You can go to hot springs to increase your health. You can climb up mountains to honor shrines to get charms that give you huge boost in combat. And you can follow foxes that you find in the wild to hidden shrines that increase how many charms you can carry. And you can do bamboo challenges to increase how many charges you have. And you can use these charges to do special techniques or to heal yourself, which, by the way, I just have to point out, I love the way that you heal yourself in this game. You don't drink or eat something or use a spell, you literally just grunt and hit yourself and walk it off. Jin's secret healing technique is literally just...
You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Oh. Okay.
And it just cracks me up. It made me laugh every time. I can't explain why. There's also haikus to write or monuments to find that don't give you any kind of a perk, but they do give you headbands or armor that you can use to customize Jin, and holy cow, does this game love its customizables. There's so much here that it made me upset that I couldn't possibly have an excuse to wear them all. Can we please get a new game plus for this game? I need to go through this entire story with this monkey mask on. And the number of side quests is huge. However, many of these quests won't really give you anything other than a boost to your experience points, but every single mission you go on will be loaded with character. You don't just go up to someone and they say, hey, go take out those Mongols for me. No, every quest has characters suffering through something different or their own backstory, and this helped to keep each of these missions feeling different. At least up until a point. Yeah, I've been praising this game a lot, but this is the one big problem that I have with this game. As I said, none of these missions are just, hey, go take out those Mongols. But that is pretty much what they all boil down to. There's dozens upon dozens of missions, but I can count on about one hand how many of them didn't require you to just go and kill a bunch of Mongols or bandits. Again, the characters involved in these missions, the reasons why you have to go and fight, they're different and they do add variety to the missions that kept me going. But I do wish they found a few different ideas to play around with. I mean, heck, about half of these missions aren't just about you fighting enemies, they're also about you searching around an area for clues until you can find tracks so then you can hunt down the enemies to fight them. It does get repetitive after a while. But that's for the smaller side quests. There are also larger side quests that involve your closest allies, and these missions really help to flesh them out, and it is stunning how good these characters ended up becoming. Some of my favorite characters of any game that I have played this year come from these supporting characters. There are characters with backstories and quests so deep, they're greater than most protagonists I've played this year. Heck, there was even a character who I was convinced, oh, I'm going to end up hating you. And then by the time that I finished their last quest, I just thought to myself, no, don't go just yet. You're too good of a character. I want to do more quests with you. I have no idea how every single character in this game can be written this well. Which brings me to Jin Sakai, the Ghost of Tsushima himself. Now, when this game began, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really expecting much from Jin. As I said, this is an open world game, and a lot of open world games have fairly blank protagonists, so that way you, the player, can more easily see yourself in the role. Another reason why I'm not the biggest fan of open world games. Yes, being able to have a playable avatar is great, but I'm not a fan of that coming at the cost of an actual character. I want someone with a backstory and connections and personality, and Jin has all of that stuff. I will admit, yes, for a large part of the beginning of this game, Jin is rather one note. He's stoic and focused on the mission. And while that focus does persist throughout the game, well, you can't really blame him. I mean, his home was overrun by invaders and everyone he knew was killed right in front of him. But there are so many small moments here, whether it be a quick line between him and an ally, a passing thought as he finally relaxes at a hot spring, even just a simple reaction to another character that lets you know what type of person Jin really is. He's actually got a great dry sense of humor, and you can tell he's been carrying the weight of expectations on him for so long that he actually does savor the brief moments when he can loosen up. But what really won me over about Jin isn't who he was, but who he ends up becoming. As I said, he was raised in a long line of samurais. he constantly has the voice of his uncle in his head, hammering these lessons of honor and nobility into his brain. But on that day on the beach when he saw all his fellow samurai die, he was rescued by a thief who tells him, yeah, all that honor stuff, that ain't going to fly. You're trying to free an entire island all by yourself? I've got to teach you how to fight dirty, how to be sneaky, how to fight like a thief. And he hates this. He hates having to be stealthy. He hates having to sneak around. He hates having to kill from the shadows, which, for anyone out there who saw our Last of Us 2 review, you'll know. Then I'll go ahead and let you in on a little secret about me. Aaron doesn't stealth. I am terrible at stealth games. I am as discreet as a tuba being thrown down a staircase. If nothing else, I can say that Ghost of Tsushima will at least have my most relatable protagonist of 2020. But he's tormented at first by having to go down this darker path. But as the game progresses, he slowly begins to not just open up to it, he begins to realize it's necessary, that maybe his uncle was wrong, and that this is what he must become. And this transition is amazing. This is one of the most well-executed character arcs I have seen all year. The change in his philosophy is so well paced throughout the entire game. And it's not like you only see how this affects him in a handful of story-related cutscenes. No, it hits him everywhere. The first time that you do a stealth attack in the story, he talks about how he hates doing it. But then when you do a stealth kill on your own outside the story, you will actually see a memory of Jin's uncle pop up and tell him why you must face someone head on, about how there is no honor in fighting from the shadows. But the game will keep forcing you into situations where you will have to fight like this, where you'll have to be sneaky and attack from behind. In fact, sometimes they'll force you a little bit too hard into these situations. Yeah, I'll admit sometimes the enemy intelligence is a little questionable. But as I said, the game will keep forcing you into situations where Jin has to fight from the shadows, and it feels like each battle, each beat of this story plays a part in him eventually becoming the ghost. You'll see him have to take on a mission where he does some truly terrible, blood-curdling acts against the enemy, but it is only after he has been told by a dear friend about the nightmarish, sickening things these villains have done to them, and after hearing that, yeah, you can't really help but understand why Jin has to do what he does. People from Jin's past will comment on how he's changed, and he'll swear that he's only doing this to stop the invasion, but you can tell from the cold way that he answers that he's been changed, and that he can't fully go back ever again to the person that he was before. And all throughout your journey, you'll see the Mongol leaders talking with your uncle in his cell, telling him that they know Jin is going against the code of the samurai, and you will understand how much it means for Jin to go against this code. You will see how this weighs on not just Jin, but also on his uncle as well. But then as the story goes on, you'll see Jin's legend growing, and you'll see how this legend is affecting the people of Tsushima, and how it's inspiring them to fight back, how Jin has now had the mantle of the ghost thrown upon him, but that's exactly who the people need him to be. And again, you understand why he's doing this. The people need him for this. But the game even goes beyond that. Towards the end of this game, when you fought and slashed and burned your way through so many opponents, and Jin's heart has started to grow cold to all the things that he's had to do, now even the people that you're protecting will start to fear you, which is amazing. I mean, it's not amazing that they're fearing you, but it is great that this game is willing to come in here and say, no, there are consequences to this. You're doing it for the people of Tsushima, but have you gone too far? What's the point of helping people when they don't even trust you? And there are even decisions that Jin makes in his quest that actually come back full circle and bite him in the ass. You will see that not all of the dark decisions that he made were actually good. Some of them ended up hurting his quest. The way this game actually plays with the morality of Jin's decisions, the way it actually shows the consequences of his actions, how it weaves that into the actual gameplay, how every step of the story continues to push him along and reinforce what is happening to him. God damn, this is some smart storytelling. But I mentioned Jin's legend and how that plays into the game. And legend is the right word. As I said, I wasn't really looking forward to this game because, yes, I'm not really a fan of open world games. But also because I knew this was going to go for a more realistic tone, and a darker tone, and it was going to be very stealth heavy. And after the last game that we reviewed, I was not in the mood for anything serious, stealth heavy, or realistic. But while this game is technically realistic in that it's based on historical events and nobody has superpowers and there aren't any supernatural creatures, the presentation of this game is legendary. It's epic in its scale and how huge they make every important moment feel. Playing through this feels like you're walking through a samurai film. So much so they even include a mode called Kurosawa mode, where they make everything black and white and grainy and scratch up the audio. So even though this game does have a real world setting and the story has roots in historical events, this game still feels more magical and stunning than anything else I have played this entire year. Yes, I do have some problems with the repetition of the quest. And if I can be honest with you guys, I can do with a few less archers in the game. Yeah, screw these guys, they always took all the fun out of the combat. But even with those complaints, I'm still going to give this a 9 out of 10. But there you have it, that is our review of Ghost of Tsushima. I am sorry that my voice was so scratchy in this, but you heard how much I was screaming in praise of this game. I think I blew out my vocal cords while recording this. But let me know what you thought of Ghost of Tsushima down below, and if you like this review, then think about hitting that subscribe button and ringing that bell. We sure would appreciate it. And as always, sharing these videos around the web is the best way to make our channel grow, so thank you to everyone who has been doing that. I've seen you guys doing it on Twitter. I really do appreciate it. And you can always follow me around the web on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade or on Twitch at Professor Thorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.